Naledi almost said no when the message came. Family dinner tonight. We miss you. Those words felt strange after months of silence. Still she went. Part of her always hoped things could be normal again. The house looked the same. Warm lights, soft music, the smell of food that reminded her of childhood. Her mother hugged her a little too tightly. Her father smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Cabello was already sitting at the table, scrolling on his phone, not even looking up. Everyone kept saying, "Eat, eat," like food could fix everything. First, the talk was light. Her mother asked about work. Her father joked about the weather. They laughed in the right places, but it felt practiced, like a play they had rehearsed before she arrived. Naledi noticed how often her parents glanced at each other, like they were waiting for a signal. Then her father said very casually, "Business is hard these days. Money isn't moving like before." Naledi's hand froze around her fork. Her mother sighed loudly and shook her head. "These times are not kind to families," she said, looking straight at Naledi, then quickly away. Cabello finally looked up, his face tense, his jaw tight. Naledi felt it in her chest, that heavy, familiar warning. This dinner wasn't about missing her. It wasn't about love. The food suddenly tasted dry in her mouth. The room felt smaller, warmer, too quiet. She smiled politely, but inside, her heart started beating faster. She had worked too hard, fought too many battles alone to not recognize this feeling. This wasn't a family dinner. It was a setup. Her father cleared his throat and leaned back in his chair, like he was about to tell a harmless story. "So," he said, tapping the table with his fingers, "there's something we need to talk about." Naledi didn't say anything. She just waited. Her mother jumped in quickly, her voice soft but heavy. "You know Cabello has been under a lot of pressure," she said. "Business stress. Bad luck. These things happen to men." She reached for her glass, took a slow sip, then added, "The debt has grown." Cabello stared at his plate. He didn't look ashamed. He looked annoyed, like this conversation was inconvenient. "How much?" Naledi asked quietly. There was a pause. Her parents exchanged a look. Then her father said it, the same way someone would mention the price of groceries. $250,000. The words hung in the air. Naledi blinked, sure she had heard wrong. "I'm sorry," she said, forcing a small laugh. "How much?" $250,000, her mother repeated, slower this time. "It's serious." Naledi felt something twist in her stomach. That wasn't a mistake. That wasn't bad luck. That was a disaster. Her father leaned forward now. "You're doing well," he said, nodding toward her like it was a compliment. "You have good income, good connections. You're the successful one," her mother added. "We raised you to be responsible." The meaning was clear. The room felt tight around her chest. "And what does this have to do with me?" Naledi asked. Cabello finally spoke. "I just need help," he said, his voice flat. No apology. No explanation. Just expectation. Her mother reached across the table, placing her hand near Naledi's plate, not touching her, but close enough to feel like pressure. "Family helps family," she said. "This debt can destroy him. Do you want your brother to lose everything?" Naledi looked at their faces. Not one of them asked how she was. Not one of them asked what this would cost her. They were already counting her money in their heads. "I worked for what I have," Naledi said slowly. "Every long night. Every sacrifice." Her father waved his hand. Yes, and that's good. That's why we're talking to you." Her mother nodded. "God has blessed you." Naledi almost laughed. They were turning her hard work into destiny, into duty. "So you want me to pay his debt," she said. Silence. Her father didn't deny it. "Not pay," he corrected gently. "Help. Temporarily. We'll figure the rest out later." Later. That word felt empty. Naledi looked at Cabello again. He still wouldn't meet her eyes. In that moment she understood. Her success wasn't something they were proud of. It was something they planned to use. And the dinner finally made sense. Naledi took a deep breath before speaking. Her hands were steady, even though her chest felt tight. "I can't do that," she said calmly. I won't pay the debt. For a second no one spoke. Then her mother's face changed. The softness disappeared, replaced by something sharp and angry. What do you mean you can't? Her mother snapped. Do you hear yourself? Naledi kept her voice even. $250,000 is not help. It's my future. I didn't create this problem. Her mother pushed her chair back loudly. So you're just going to sit there and watch your brother drown? She shouted. After everything we've done for you. Her father raised his hand, pretending to calm things down, but his words cut just as deep. Naledi, he said slowly, you seem to have forgotten where you come from. She looked at him. I haven't. We fed you, he continued. We clothed you. We paid your school fees. We sacrificed our comfort so you could succeed. He leaned forward. And now that you've made it, you're turning your back on your family. Naledi felt a sting behind her eyes but refused to let it show. That was your responsibility as parents, she said quietly. Not a loan I have to repay. Her mother laughed bitterly. Listen to her. So cold. So ungrateful. I'm not ungrateful, Naledi replied. I'm just saying no. That word seemed to set her mother on fire. No, her mother yelled. Do you know how many nights I stayed awake worrying about you? How many prayers I prayed? And this is how you thank me. Cabello shifted in his seat but said nothing. He didn't defend Naledi. He didn't defend himself either. He just let the storm happen. Her father shook his head slowly. Success has changed you, he said. Money has made you selfish. Naledi stood up, her legs trembling slightly. Money didn't change me, she said. It just showed me the truth. Her mother pointed at her like she was accusing her in court. You owe this family, she screamed. You owe us your life. The words hit harder than any slap. Naledi swallowed. I don't owe anyone my silence or my savings, she said. Love shouldn't come with a bill. Her father's voice hardened. If you walk away from this, he warned, don't call yourself part of this family anymore. The room went quiet. Naledi looked around the table, at the people who were supposed to love her without conditions. I won't be bought with guilt, she said softly. And I won't be bullied into saying yes. She picked up her bag. Her heart was breaking, but her voice stayed calm. That was when she realized something painful and clear. In their eyes, she was only family as long as she was useful. Naledi turned to leave, hoping the worst was over. Her hand had just touched the strap of her bag when her mother let out a sharp laugh. Look at her, she said loudly. Walking away like a stranger. Naledi stopped but didn't turn around. I'm leaving before this gets worse, she said. Oh no, her mother snapped. You don't get to leave like you're the victim. Her father stood up too, his chair scraping the floor. Sit down, he ordered. We are not finished talking. Naledi turned slowly. I said what I needed to say. That's when her mother grabbed her wine glass. Everything happened so fast. The red liquid flew through the air and splashed across Naledi's face and chest. It was cold. It smelled sharp and sour. Drops ran down her cheeks, soaking into her blouse. For a moment, Naledi couldn't breathe. Selfish, her mother screamed. Heartless girl. Naledi wiped her eyes, her hands shaking. Why would you do that? She whispered. Because you deserve it, her mother shouted. You think you're better than us now. You think money makes you important. Her father didn't stop her. He just shook his head in disappointment. I never raised you to be like this, he said. So ungrateful. Cabello finally stood up, but not to help her. You're embarrassing everyone, he muttered. You could have just helped. Naledi looked at him, hurt flooding her chest. You didn't even ask, she said. You just expected. Her mother stepped closer, pointing a finger in her face. After everything we gave you, you can't give back one thing. One thing. Naledi laughed weakly, tears mixing with wine. You're asking for my whole life. Her mother shoved her hard. Naledi stumbled back, almost falling. Get out, her mother yelled. Get out of my house if you're going to be this wicked. Her father opened the door without looking at her. Leave, he said coldly. And don't come back until you remember who you are. Naledi stood there, soaked, humiliated, her heart pounding in her ears. Neighbors' lights flicked on. Someone's door opened and closed. She felt exposed, small, and completely alone. As she stepped outside, her mother's voice followed her. "Don't ever forget this night," she shouted. "You chose money over family." The door slammed shut behind her. Naledi stood in the dark, wine dripping from her clothes, her hands clenched into fists. They didn't just throw her out. They threw shame at her and called it love. Naledi didn't know where she was going. She just walked. The night air in Gaborone was cold, cutting through her wet clothes. Every step felt heavy, like the ground was pulling her back. Cars passed, their headlights brushing over her face for a second, then disappearing. No one stopped. No one asked if she was okay. Her mother's words kept replaying in her head. Selfish, heartless, ungrateful. Each word felt louder in the silence of the street. She could still smell the wine on her skin. It clung to her like shame that wasn't hers. She hugged her arms around herself and kept walking. Her phone buzzed in her bag, but she didn't check it. She already knew who it would be. Not to ask if she was safe, not to say sorry. Just more pressure, more guilt. As she walked, memories came without permission. Late nights studying while Cabello slept, working part-time while he borrowed money, just for now. Family meetings where his mistakes were called stress, and her tears were called attitude. She had learned early how to survive quietly. She stopped near a closed shop and leaned against the wall, finally letting herself breathe. Her legs were shaking, not from the cold, but from everything she had been holding in for years. This wasn't about $250,000. That truth landed softly but clearly. If she had been broke, they would have ignored her. If she had failed, they would have blamed her. They loved her success, not her. And the moment she said no, that love disappeared. Naledi slid down and sat on the pavement, pulling her bag close like it was the only thing she owned in the world. Tears came then, quiet, tired tears. Not because she had lost her family, but because she finally understood them. She slept that night on a thin bench near a small bus stop, using her jacket as a pillow. The city hummed around her. Distant voices, a dog barking, life going on even as her own felt cracked open. When morning light began to rise, Naledi opened her eyes and stared at the sky. Her body ached. Her pride didn't. She had nothing with her but her bag, her breath, and her self-respect. And for the first time she knew that was enough. They tried to break her with shame. She survived with dignity. As Naledi lay there, half awake, memories kept coming. Not the loud ones, the quiet ones. The moments she had buried because noticing them hurt too much. She remembered being a teenager, standing in the kitchen with her school letter in her hand. She had won a small scholarship. Not enough to cover everything but enough to help. Her parents smiled, proud for one moment, then said, "Good. Now we don't have to worry about you." That same week, Cabello failed a class. The house went silent with concern. Tutors were hired. Excuses were made. Everyone gathered around him like he was fragile glass. Naledi learned early what her role was. When Cabello crashed the family car, her father said, "Boys make mistakes." When Naledi scratched the bumper months later, she paid for it from her savings. No shouting, no anger, just quiet responsibility. She remembered university days. Cabello changed courses twice, each time with full support. Rent paid. Allowance sent. Naledi worked late shifts, skipped meals, and sent money home when she could. No one asked how tired she was. They just said, "You're strong. You'll manage." And she did. In silence. Every time Cabello messed up, there was a family meeting. Heads bowed. Voices gentle. "We must help him," her mother would say. When Naledi struggled, the advice was always the same. Endure. Pay. Don't complain. The worst part wasn't the favoritism. It was Cabello's silence. He saw it all. He saw her carrying weight meant for two. But he never said, "It's not fair." Never said, "Leave her out of this." Never once stood between her and their parents. Even that night when wine hit her face, he didn't move. He didn't shout. He didn't reach for her. He just looked away like he always had. Naledi realized then that his silence was a choice. Being protected felt easier than being honest. She thought of all the times she had defended him to friends. "He's just going through something," she used to say. Now she wondered who had ever defended her. Cabello wasn't evil, but he was comfortable. Comfortable letting her pay. Comfortable letting her be the strong one so he could stay weak. That truth hurt more than the insults. Because betrayal doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits quietly at the table and lets others do the damage. Naledi closed her eyes and took a slow breath. She didn't hate her brother, but she was done sacrificing herself to keep him safe. For the first time she allowed herself to say it, even if only in her heart. "I deserved better too." By the third day, Naledi stopped crying. Not because the pain was gone but because something else had taken its place. Clarity. Her phone kept ringing. Missed calls. Long messages. Her mother's voice notes moved from anger to fake concern. Her father's texts were short and serious. Cabello didn't apologize. He just wrote, "We need to talk. It's urgent." Naledi didn't reply. Instead, she booked an appointment with a lawyer. Walking into that office felt strange. The room was quiet, clean. No shouting, no guilt. Just a woman behind a desk who looked at Naledi and said, "Tell me everything. Take your time." So Naledi did. She talked about the family business. How she had worked there from the beginning. How she brought clients. How she signed papers without reading too closely because she trusted her parents. How she was always told, "It's just formality." How her name was used often, for guarantees, for meetings, for credibility. The lawyer listened carefully. Then she said, "I need to see the documents." Naledi went home and opened old folders. Emails she never questioned. Contracts she signed between long workdays. Bank letters she assumed were routine. As she read, her hands started to shake. Her name was everywhere. Not just as an employee. Not just as help. As a guarantor. As a partner. As someone legally responsible. Naledi felt sick. The lawyer confirmed it gently. "You're tied to more than you realize," she said. "If you send money now or sign anything new, you could lose everything." Everything suddenly made sense. The dinner, the pressure, the sudden kindness after throwing her out. They didn't just want help. They needed her. Naledi walked out of that office feeling different. Still hurt. Still sad. But no longer confused. For years, she thought she was strong because she stayed quiet. Now she saw that silence had cost her too much. That night, she sat alone and thought about the girl she used to be. The one who believed love meant obedience. The one who thought saying no made her bad. The one who kept proving her worth by giving more. She whispered to herself, "Not anymore." For the first time, she didn't feel guilty for protecting herself. She felt proud. The next morning, her phone rang again. Her father's name flashed on the screen. Naledi let it ring. Then she turned the phone face down. She wasn't running away. She was standing up. Meeting that lawyer didn't just change her plan. Changed her life. Naledi thought she was ready for the truth. She wasn't. The more documents she read, the heavier her chest felt. Page after page, her name appeared where it never should have been. Not in places of honor. In places of risk. Responsibility. Blame. There were guarantees signed in her name. Loans tied to her identity. Contracts that made her quietly responsible if anything went wrong. Things her parents never explained. Things they rushed her through with smiles and trust. "You're just helping the family," they had said. "It's only paperwork," they had said. But paperwork had teeth. The lawyer laid everything out slowly, carefully, like she didn't want to scare Naledi more than she already was. "If this business collapses," she said, "creditors will come to you. Not your parents. Not your brother. You." Naledi's ears rang. She remembered every time her parents told her to sign quickly. Every time they said, "We'll explain later." Later never came. Now she understood their anger. It wasn't about respect. It wasn't about family values. It was fear. They weren't mad because she said no. They were mad because she had power. Cabello's debt wasn't just his mistake. It was a crack in something much bigger. If Naledi refused to help, refused to sign, refused to send money, everything could fall apart, and they had been counting on her silence to hold it together. Naledi felt her stomach twist. All those years she thought she was just being supportive. She was actually being used as a shield. She asked the lawyer, "Why didn't they tell me?" The lawyer didn't hesitate. "Because you would have asked questions." That answer hurt more than anything. Naledi thought back to the dinner. The forced smiles. The fake warmth. The wine thrown in her face when she refused. Shame wasn't their first weapon. Fear was. Shame was just what they used when fear didn't work. She wasn't the problem child. She was the safety net. And safety nets are only loved when they don't move. Naledi went home and sat in the quiet. No shouting. No guilt. Just truth. For the first time she allowed herself to feel angry. Not loud anger, but steady, clean anger that sharpened her mind. They had crossed a line. Not by asking for money, but by hiding the truth. Naledi looked at her reflection and barely recognized the woman staring back. She wasn't the obedient daughter anymore. She was informed, aware, dangerous in the best way. Her parents' anger finally made sense. It was never about family loyalty. It was about control, and they were losing it. The calls started the very next day. Naledi's phone buzzed on the table while she made tea. She ignored it, buzzed again, and again. When she finally looked, her screen was full of missed calls. Her mother, her father, unknown numbers. Even Cabello. The tone had changed. Her mother's voice note was soft, almost sweet. "My daughter, are you okay? We are worried about you. Come home. Let's talk calmly." No apology. Just concern that arrived too late. Her father followed with a message. "We can sort this out as a family. No need for outsiders." Naledi almost smiled at that word. Outsiders. They meant the lawyer. Then Cabello called. This time she answered. "Please," he said the moment she picked up. His voice was tight, rushed. "You need to come sign something. Just one thing. It's urgent." Naledi leaned back in her chair. "Sign what?" "It's nothing big," he said quickly. "Just a form. The bank is pushing us." She closed her eyes. The panic in his voice told her everything. "Send it to my lawyer," she replied. There was silence. Then his voice dropped. "Why are you doing this to us?" Naledi felt the familiar pull of guilt, but it didn't grab her like before. "I'm not doing anything," she said. "I'm just not saving you anymore." The calls kept coming. Her father switched tactics. "Think about the family name," he said. "People are talking." Her mother cried on the phone. Real tears or not, Naledi couldn't tell. "I carried you for 9 months," she said. "Is this how you repay me?" Naledi ended the call with shaking hands. They weren't calling because they missed her. They were calling because deadlines were close. Because banks were asking questions. Because signatures mattered. They needed her name. She saw it clearly now. The same people who shoved her out into the night were now afraid to lose her. The power had shifted, and they felt it. One evening, her father showed up outside her building. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He just said quietly, "If you don't help, everything will collapse." Naledi looked at him through the gate. "Then it will collapse," she replied. For the first time, he had nothing to say. As she walked back inside, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Another plea. Naledi turned the phone off. Silence filled the room. And in that silence, she finally felt in control. Naledi didn't go back to say sorry. She didn't go back to cry or explain herself. She went back because she was ready. She walked into the house with calm steps, dressed simply, holding a folder in her hand. Her parents looked surprised. Cabello looked nervous. The same table, the same chairs. But the power in the room had changed. "I'm not here to argue," Naledi said. Her voice was steady. "I'm here to be clear." She placed the folder on the table. Inside were copies of documents, highlighted and organized. "I know what my name is tied to," she said. "I know what you hid from me. And I won't sign anything else." Her mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Her father's face went pale. Naledi continued, "From today, all communication goes through my lawyer. I am stepping away from the business. And I am removing myself from every guarantee you put me on without my consent. Cabello stood up. If you do this, you'll ruin us, he said. Naledi looked at him, not with anger, but with sadness. You ruined yourselves when you chose silence over honesty. Her mother started to cry, but Naledi didn't move. She had cried enough for everyone. I love you, Naledi said quietly. But love doesn't mean letting you destroy me. She picked up her bag and turned toward the door. Her father spoke then, his voice small. So that's it. Naledi paused. No, she said. This is the beginning. She walked out with her head high. No whine, no shouting, no shame. Outside, the air felt lighter. She breathed deeply, like someone who had been holding their breath for years. Naledi chose herself, and for the first time that choice felt like freedom.